Is this what it was like, Seb? After the accident?
Well, I never put a gun to my head.
No, of course not. Just quietly sank into a bottle.
We can't all be perfect. It never affected my work. But hey, you read the IA report.
You know I didn't report you because I was worried about your work, Sebastian.
What else is there?
Sebastian Castellanos is the main character of the game The Evil Within, being the one that the player takes control of to experience the events at Beacon. Yet, while he may be the one that we spend the most time with, we actually don't get that much information about him in the game. Most of what we do learn is confined to the journals that can be collected along the way, typically found near cracked mirrors.
Shit.
Sebastian's tale as we know it began many years before the events at Beacon, all the way back in 2004, the year that Sebastian became a detective. Being one of the fastest to ever rise through the ranks of the police force, Sebastian was granted his new badge in November of 2004. You see, much of Sebastian's life is centered around his job. He seems to take great pride in helping out the city that he loves. Even most of his personal relationships center around his position in the KCPD. For example, the first partner to which Sebastian is assigned to in his new role as detective is Myra Hansen. The two become romantically involved, and this leads to a relationship budding between the two. This relationship is, however, against KCPD Code of Conduct, and the two are split up as partners. And so Sebastian gets paired up with a new partner who becomes one of his best friends, Joseph Oda. Sebastian and Myra's relationship eventually becomes official with a marriage in September of 2005, and in the following year, they give birth to their first child, a baby girl named Lily Castellanos. All the pieces of Sebastian's life seem to be falling into place. A good career, a loving wife, a beautiful daughter, until 2012, when tragedy struck the family. While Sebastian and Myra were out of the house, a fire broke loose with Lily and her nanny inside. The fire took the lives of both of them before the firefighters could make it to the scene, and while the official findings as to what started the fire were ruled as faulty electrical wiring, Myra wasn't convinced. She plunged herself into research around the incident, working around the clock to find out the truth of what happened to their beloved daughter. And while Myra handled this loss with relentless research, Sebastian turned to alcohol to numb his own inner pain, figuring that as long as it didn't affect his work, it wasn't an issue. And as the marriage became more and more strained, eventually Myra disappeared under unknown circumstances. Most of the police force thought that she'd left Sebastian, a result of his constant drinking. However, Sebastian thought it was deeper, thought that she'd been taken. And while at first he'd been wary on agreeing that their daughter's death wasn't an accident, he became convinced that Myra was onto something. With her disappearance, Sebastian took up her investigation, against the orders of his superiors at KCPD. Now not only searching for the truth behind the fire, but also what happened to his wife. With his life in shambles, Sebastian became even more reclusive and jaded. His relationships strained to the point that his partner, Joseph, feared for his well-being and reported him to internal affairs. And while in this turmoil, one day on the job, he got unlucky enough to find his way to Beacon.
What do you make of it?
Connolly, contact dispatch and let them know what's happening. Joseph, Kidman, you're with me. We're gonna have a look around.
Right.
Sebastian's time at Beacon is largely spent attempting to find out what's going on and how to escape, with a few character interactions giving us some detail about his relationships with certain people. Other than that, however, his personal feelings nor story are really the center of attention here, so we don't learn that much about him. He gets sucked into STEM unknowingly while heading to the scene of a crime at Beacon Mental Hospital through seemingly sheer dumb luck. However, there may be a deeper reasoning to why Kidman was placed specifically under Sebastian and Joseph's detective division. As we come to learn at the end of the game's second DLC, Sebastian's wife is alive, and is actually working with the organization that helped to set these events in motion.
Agent Kidman, we've got him from here.
How long has it been?
37 minutes since the first pulse.
How did we get here?
What are you talking about?
Just give me a minute. I need to get my head straight.
Myra, we need you back here.
All right, but we've got word he wants a debriefing as soon as you get back.
Myra.
It's also revealed to us that there seems to be some form of concern that Mobius seemed to have about Sebastian, as we find out in Kidman's personal files.
And Detective Castellanos. Anything you have to share on him?
Seems drunk half the time, but at least he's considerate. Is he really the one people are concerned about? He seems almost harmless.
He is known to get emotional. Just make sure to give him his space. Respect him. As your superior.
It's never really made clear as to the type of concern that they have for him. However, given his research into the disappearance of his wife and daughter, and given that, in the first game, we get confirmation of his wife's involvement with Mobius, it seems likely that they were worried where his research would lead him. Outside of these small revelations, however, the story of Beacon as it relates to Sebastian seems to be uneventful. At most, you could say that it gave him even more trauma to deal with. He doesn't personally find out about Myra, it's Kidman who learns about her whereabouts, so this probably doesn't even seem connected to her disappearance to him. He loses his best friend, who supposedly dies after being shot by Kidman, and Kidman, his protege, is actually a double agent who's been lying to him the whole time. He also knows that Ruvik, the man whose nightmares he's been living in, is now free in the world with a new body. And that's not even to mention all of the horrific sights that he saw and the monsters that he faced. So, if you don't think that Sebastian was justified in his excessive drinking habits before the events of this game, I think you can grant him some leniency for them after his stay at Beacon.